Hi, I'm Jordan Raskopoulos from the Axis of Awesome, and I am going back to school with Student Edge.
So what were you like as a student?
In high school?
Yes.
Well, I happened to be the only girl at a boys' high school, so I went to an all-boys school.
Right.
Which was kind of, I liked it. Yeah, we'll just get right to it. I dealt with gender dysphoria in an environment surrounded by boys, so I shut it down. But I got very involved in like rugby and stuff like that. But I dug high school more or less. I was smart enough to get by without doing too much study. So,
Well, when you say you got into rugby, was that something that you did have a passion for, or was it more of a kind of a coping mechanism to kind of blend in?
I think it was a bit of both. I definitely enjoyed it, and I did rugby up until I was 22, and then got an injury doing Macbeth, which kind of ended my rugby career. But in the last year started doing, last couple of months started doing roller derby, so which is kind of very similar skills.
Sure.
But I think part of it was in terms of trying to fit in as a boy and trying to kind of deal with these feelings in a way. Which wasn't really helpful for me, but in a way that to be more masculine and to try and fit in doing masculine stuff, then the way I behaved and the kind of the activities I pursued definitely kind of reflected that.
Well, puberty is already like a nightmare.
I know,
but
I'm going through it again.
Right. Well, but going through gender dysphoria at an age and a time where maybe you don't have the words for it and you don't even know what that experience is and how to tell other people. What were the coping mechanisms for you?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Like I had the feelings, but had no words for it, had no way to describe it, had no one to talk to about it, and what I saw in the media about trans people, what little I saw, was often destructive. And it was things like Jerry Springer or movies like Ace Ventura. Being trans or gender diverse, the media representation was it's destructive, it's a joke, it's something to be disgusted by. And so these kind of feelings that I had, the only way that I knew how to deal with them was to be ashamed of them. And so, I repressed them, I became ashamed, and it's only when I hit 32 that I actually went, I am trans and I need to deal with this, that I sort of unpacked what I'd kind of been through as a teenager and kind of realised that how much damage hiding it did at that time. Yeah.
It's kind of heartening that as a culture, when we look back on Jerry Springer and Ace Ventura, we do cringe about the way we treated trans issues at the time. But then you think of, say, the Safe Schools program, which has recently been gutted.
Yeah.
How do you feel about young people in a similar situation to you today? Do you feel like they are in a better place, or are there not enough avenues for them to turn?
I think it's a better place. It's not the best place, though. Like, particularly for trans kids. Like, I think kind of trans, the story of trans acceptance is kind of maybe 10 years behind kind of gay and lesbian acceptance. So we're still seeing jokes in films, that have a trans angle. I think there was something in Deadpool or whatever where it was just, there was a muscular female character and, it was just a quip, he, called them he. And then just, I see that, stuff like that, it just breaks my heart a bit. So we're still not at the point where those jokes aren't okay for kind of mainstream stuff, but you look back to stuff from the 80s and 90s and those people would use the word fag in quips like that. You look at Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, which is a great film, like one of my favourite films as a kid about time travelling high school students who kind of learn history by kidnapping people from history, but they just call each other fag a bunch, and it's kind of just really off the cuff, and it's just kind of the way people behave, but it's totally not okay. And the bad thing is it does mar what is a really nice film. And I think we're going to look back in 10 years' time at kind of all these kind of transphobic jokes and quips that weren't pointed, weren't hateful, but were ignorant, and I think we're going to regret it. So I hope so. I hope it gets better.
You speak of jokes. You are a comedian and a musician. Now, the talents of comedians and musicians aren't necessarily catered to in a classroom.
Sure.
What was that like, where you have these passions for comedy, but did you have an outlet?
Yeah, I was fortunate to go to a school that had a good drama program and did theatre sports. So that was kind of high school theatre sports for me, and doing drama and doing theatre sports was a way to kind of meet girls as well. And, you know, and I was doing that from the things like I want to meet girls because I'm attracted to girls, but also I kind of want to be one, and it's nice to be around them. So, you know, we would pair up with girls' schools and do plays and stuff. But doing theatre sports and doing comedy and improvisation at high school, and then when doing it through university, that was kind of, that was my in with comedy. So even though you don't think that high school, university necessarily is about teaching students to be comedians, I never would have gotten the path had I not stuck with study. You know, if I hadn't pursued, had the opportunities for extracurricular activities at school and university, I never would have found, you know, the people that I work with or the skills. You know, I also did my homework too, more or less.
But yeah, it's true. Like all crafts you need to hone them, right?
Totally. And you just need to find those, you know, environments where you can do it. And if your school doesn't necessarily provide that or encourage that, it's about, you know, seeking out the opportunities and finding friends and people you can collaborate and people you can learn from.
So you saw comedy and perhaps acting and music as an actual career? Like, did you, even at that young age? Because I mean, sometimes it's hard to know what that career would be.
I think it was a wish. I didn't think it was necessarily viable. I mean, it's a hard career to get into. And a lot of people try and don't succeed, or a lot of people do it whilst also doing real jobs. So I remember being in high school, you know, hoping that I could be an actor or a performer in some way, never thinking it was possible until it happened, you know. And so, you know, I still persisted, you know, I was ready to do a teaching degree and go teach and stuff, and then kind of all the comedy stuff took off and the degree didn't happen. And so now I'm 34 and I'm like, oh boy, I hope this comedy stuff keeps going because I've got no skills.
Just wrapping up, I want to ask, you know, looking back on those teenage years, which obviously may not have been the easiest, do you have regrets about that time, or do you wish that there were just more opportunities for you to sort of help find yourself?
Yeah, look, I wish that there was something like Safe Schools when I was around. I wish that there was someone that I could have spoken to. I don't think I could have. You know, if I put myself back in that environment, knowing what I know now, as much as it would have helped me to come out, I don't know if my parents would have accepted me. I don't know how that environment would have taken me. I don't know how it would have been in the 90s to come out as trans. What I do wish I'd done is that part of being dysphoric and part of fighting it meant that I was a bully to queer people, I think, growing up. And I wish that I hadn't done that. I wish that I hadn't, you know, internalized my own transphobia, basically, become transphobic because I was fighting myself. And that manifested in being a bully to other people, which I need to own and I need to, apologise for and speak about, because I think it's common. It's common for people who feel different to try and fight it by being cruel to other people. And that's a bad thing.
Well, what's your advice for kids out there who may be going through gender dysphoria or who maybe are transphobic or...
Yeah. It's all right to talk to someone about it, you know. Speak to the school counsellor or something like that. Like, you can trust people with your feelings and you're not alone. Like, I think one of the things with trans people is when people talk about this transgender community, that community doesn't include the people who are closeted, you know, and when I dealt with my dysphoria, I was a community of one. I didn't have a language to describe it. I didn't have anyone to talk to. I just had the feelings, and it was very lonely. And there are people who have those feelings too. So if you feel that way, whether you want to call yourself trans or not, if you feel that you might be different, or you feel that you might be queer, or you might be gender diverse, there are other people who are like that. And by talking and opening up, you can find other people's stories, and that for me was the biggest help. And it only happened a few years ago, but finding people who had the same experiences as me growing up, the same anxieties, the same feelings, was such a relief, you know, to realise that I wasn't by myself.
Glad to hear it. Yeah. Jordan, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, if you enjoyed that video, subscribe to our channel on YouTube, or find more of our stuff at studentedge.com.au.